There was a heart-touching story about a beggar and a lady. Uh, so the story was like, as a woman walked down the street one day, he spotted a beggar. The man looked pretty old, unshaved, and ill-dressed. Every passerby looked at him with their contempt, not likely they had anything against him, but merely because of who he was, a filthy beggar. But when his particular woman saw him, she was filled with compassion. Like, the beggar was improperly dressed for a weather so cold. Precisely, he wasn't dressed by warped up in the world what looked like in the court for a very world. Not so warm suit. She kindly asked the man, "Sir, are you all right?" The man looked at the woman, who, clearly by her appearance, was a demonstration of what people from a wealthy background look like. The old beggar thought that she, like every other person, was mocking him. "Leave me alone," he groaned like that. The woman did not move. Instead, to his surprise, uh, she smiled at him and gently asked him if he was hungry. Then the beggar replied, like, "No, I have just come from dining with the president. Now go away." The beggar replied, like, with the noble sarcasm. The woman's smile did not fade. She laid her hand under the beggar's arm and tried to pick him up. "Woman, what are you doing? What do you think about doing?" The beggar sounded annoyed. "Is there any problem, ma'am?" A policeman shouted, walking toward the lady and the beggar. The lady then said, "Not at all, officer. I was just trying to get his man this to his feet. Will you help me?" Like, the woman replied to this police officer. Then the police officer looked at her with surprise. That man is old Jack and has been there for years. What have you got to do with him anyway? So then the woman replied with, "I am taking him to a cafeteria to eat something and to get him out the cold for a while." "Are you crazy, lady?" The homeless man resisted. "I don't want to go there." Uh, then he felt a strong hand grab his other arm and lift him up. "Let me go, officer. I didn't do anything." "It's a good chance to feed yourself, Jack. Don't blow it," the officer advised the beggar. After a lot of difficulty, the woman and the officer managed to drag Jack into the cafeteria. It was past breakfast and too early for lunch hour for the day. The manager strode towards the table and asked, "What's going on here, officer?" He asked, "Is this man in trouble?" "She brought old Jack in here to feed," the policeman answered to them. "Not in my cafeteria. People like him are bad for business," the manager angrily reported. Uh, "Now you know why I didn't want to come in here, woman," Jack said with a lady. "Now let me go. I never wanted to be here in the first place." Baker said that to that woman. The woman turned into the cafeteria manager and smiled. "Sir, I reckon you know Eddie and Association, the banking firm down the street." The "Of course I do," the manager answered impatiently. "They hold their weekly meeting in one of my Barker's room, and I guess you make a good amount of money through these meetings. Uh, why does it concern you, I anyway?" "Because I am the CEO of the company," the woman replied, showing no sign of pride to her statement. Oh, it was all that he managed to say. She looked at the officer. "Would you like to join us a cup of a coffee or a meal, officer?" Then the officer replied, like, "No, ma'am, thanks. I am officer. I am on duty." Then perhaps a cup of coffee to go. "Yes, ma'am. That will be nice," the officer replied. Then, ma'am, the lady uh, said that, "I will get your coffee right away." The manager immediately replied, "You serve him right," he said. "Oh, believe me, officer, that was not what I was intended. I have a reason behind all this." She stared at Jack instantly and asked Jack, "Do you remember me?" Old Jack explained her face. "Well, you do look familiar," he truthfully added. "Do you remember a cold and hungry girl who frequently visits this place when you work here?" the woman asked. She replied, Farav's grown old, hasn't he? The officer looked surprised. He couldn't imagine this fine looking woman as a poor and hungry woman. I had just graduated and had come to city looking for a job, didn't find one for a reason for a long time. I was running out of cash and had been asking for a vacant of my apartment too. I live on this street for days. I was the cold month of February. I still remember it, and that when I found this place and walked in hoping to find eatable my little budget could afford. Jack's face suddenly lit up. Now I remember you. I used to be at the counter. You come up, asked me if could work for something to eat. I said that it wasn't. It was against the company policy. I know, the woman said. Then you offered me biggest roast beef sandwich, a cup of a coffee, and a table for me to sit and enjoy the meal. I saw you put a price for my food in the cash register. So you started your own business? Old Jack said. No, not exactly. The very afternoon I got a job. I worked my way up. Then I started my own business. She opened her purse to pull out a business card. Please pay a visit to the personal director of my company. I will go talk to him now. I'm sure there is something in my office for which we can use your help. We can even pay you a certain amount of your salary in advance. Fighting back the tears, Jack asked, how can I ever repay your kindness? You don't have to, the woman answered. Thanks Jesus, he led me to you. Thank you for all your help, officer, she said to him as they both walked out the door. On the country, Miss Eddie, thank you. I saw a miracle today, and of course, thank you for the coffee. She frowned. I forgot to ask you whether you used to cream or sugar. That's black. I do use cream and more sugar than what is good for my health, he replied. I'm sorry, she said. Please don't be. I have a feeling that this coffee is going to taste as sweet as sugar, he replied with a smile. So, moral of the story, no act of kindness, no matter how small, is ever wasted.